world. I could feel all this death.
Everything they built will fall! And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one!
At least 50 people have lost their lives after heavy downpours triggered flash flooding in northwest Pakistan over the weekend. And officials fear that the number could rise as they are waiting for word from several remote areas. There have also been several people admitted to hospitals with injuries after roof collapses caused by the heavy rain. Officials have told people who live in the villages close to the rivers that they need to evacuate and move to safer locations. Flooding has also done significant damage to farmlands, washing away crops across the region.
Heavy rain in Peru has led to the deaths of at least a dozen people and seriously affected thousands of others. Forecasters say the country is experiencing the heaviest rains and highest temperatures in 2 decades due to this year's El Nino weather phenomenon. CCTV's Dan Collins reports.
A lorry driver is rescued from atop his truck as a swollen river threatens to drag him to near certain death. Thousands of passengers and hundreds of trucks carrying fruit and vegetables to the capital were left stranded as rivers broke their banks along Peru's central highway. Floods have battered Peru's coastal region, where 3/4 of the population live. Later than expected, the El Nino phenomenon has arrived with a vengeance.
In terms of climate statistics, as long as we have reliable statistics in Peru for the last 60 or 70 years or so, this El Nino is ranked number 3 in both temperature anomalies and rainfall anomalies.
In other words, weather conditions linked to this El Niño have caused the heaviest rains and hottest temperatures in 2 decades. The weather phenomenon caused by the warming of sea surface temperatures in the Pacific has also caused drought in the country's southern highlands. That will impact the livelihoods for some of Peru's poorest.
We need our authorities to put their hands to their hearts and see how we live.
Yet Peru is better prepared than in the past. An hour outside Lima, the town of Chosica readied flood defenses.
Less than a year ago, a deadly landslide tore down this mountainside, destroying everything in its path, including the homes that stood here. The people in this town say that they're more prepared to evacuate.
While some contingency plans have worked, Peru's dramatic geography has meant many have been left stranded. Peru's weather agency has put the country on alert for even more heavy rains. Dan Collins, CCTV, Peru.
Damage assessments are underway across the southeast following the driving rains and severe storms of the past few nights. Winds topped 80 miles per hour in Georgia on Friday, which were powerful enough to flip over an 18-wheeler. The severe weather is blamed for a train derailment in eastern Alabama. Heavy rain washed out a bridge and caused the tracks to separate. 22 cars of a 100-car freight train left the tracks. No one was injured. Officials say the train was not carrying hazardous material.
Heavy winds caused destruction Saturday into Sunday morning. Gusts topping out at more than 50 miles an hour damaged properties, toppled trees, and knocked out power. In West Baltimore, the wind was so powerful it knocked the walls down from abandoned buildings. Baltimore Housing Authority officials say in all, 7 properties were condemned and 3 will need to be torn down. Bricks, wood, and cinder blocks from those collapsing walls covered streets and sidewalks. Some cars even crushed beneath the debris.
I did hear a loud boom, but I didn't realize what it was. I just thought the wind had knocked something around. Then when I came out this morning and saw all of the bricks and stuff in the ground, I'm glad I wasn't parked over there, because that's where I usually park at on Sunday mornings.
No injuries were reported in the string of collapses, but a week ago, a 69-year-old man was killed when a wall collapsed onto his car. That was on North Payson Street.
Recently, Hollandale Beach, which is just north of Miami, experienced a jellyfish invasion. This is the Valella jellyfish, also known as the by-the-wind sailor, because they have these sail-like structures on the top that can pick up the wind. And when that wind is in the right direction, it can push them along beaches. That was the setup that we had. We had a high-pressure move out over open water, and that caused a lot of these onshore winds that gets picked up in those sails. They tend to travel in schools, so even though the Valella jellyfish itself doesn't necessarily have toxins that can interfere with humans, they travel with the man-of-war jellyfish that do. Unfortunately, there is no way to forecast their arrival.
在中间呢，然后就突然之间前面的车都连撞的，然后后面的车再撞过来，已经刹车来不及了，因为那边前面全是车了，刹车来不及了，而且大雾那时候，刹车。
Well, it's called Unveiled. It originally started as a church in Granville, branching away from traditional congregations who they say rejected the gay and lesbian communities. And now they're moving to Easttown, calling themselves a spiritual community open to anyone.
It was the first time I physically felt the Holy Spirit, just completely wash over me.
A group of three in an open dialogue about spirituality and sexuality.
If you, make lots of money, if you're, homeless or gay or straight, any type of religious denomination, even if that's, none at all, if you're atheist, God still loves you.
Deanna Tenbrock is a member of Unveiled, a spiritual community open to the LGBTQ community. Struggling to find her identity and feeling unwelcome within the traditional church, Unveiled, she says, helped her in soul searching after 2 separate marriages to a man and a woman.
I just realized that I'm a child of God, and it doesn't matter where you're at in your life, that you're loved.
I'm personally just so excited to be in the Easttown area, to be in a centrally located area where everybody is open spiritually.
Through this door, a gateway to a place of love and acceptance as Unveiled moves to the Ambrosia Theater in Easttown, a safe haven for lesbian member Katie Simons, who says she was rejected by the church.
You're going to hell. You got to change who you are. This is not who you are. There wasn't freedom to have me figure that out.
But the new spiritual community hoping to unveil everyone's true self by connecting to God. And Unveiled is holding its first get-together Tuesday at 8 p.m. at the Ambrosia Theater off Lake Drive Southeast in Easttown, and all are welcome to attend. And they do have a pretty good following. I am told that the church that they had in Granville, they had between 30 and 50 people who attended.
All right, the goal there, making sure that everybody's included.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Sarah, thank you.
All right, so a family of 5 on board a United flight in Chicago headed for Washington, D.C. They got kicked off by a flight attendant. They say they were profiled.
I don't know. You tell us. They didn't tell us anything. We're going to ask them to step off the aircraft without your belongings.
Why is that? Why is that? Because it's my decision.
Is it a discriminatory decision, or is it because, what is the reason?
It is a safety of flight issue.
Oh, boy. The family says they were asking for 5-point harnesses for their children, but the flight attendant said she had no idea what they were talking about. The pilot then asked them to leave the plane. The Council on American Islamic Relations in Michigan says there's been a growing problem on airlines of Muslims being kicked off for no reason. United Airlines says the family was later rebooked onto another flight because of concerns over the children's safety seats, adding the company has zero tolerance for discrimination.
We're going to turn now to what may be the largest leak of secret documents in history. Publication of what are being called the Panama Papers this weekend has exposed a worldwide corruption scandal. Billions of dollars hidden in offshore companies by some of the richest, most powerful people on the planet. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Terry Moran has the latest from London. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Giorgio. This scandal is exploding on a global scale right now, burning up social media, trending on Twitter. Edward Snowden even tweeting, "This is the biggest leak in the history of data journalism." 11 million documents. That's 10 times what Snowden leaked. And it all centers on a secretive law firm in Panama that for decades has allegedly been helping the world's rich and powerful to launder their money, evade their taxes, and dodge sanctions. Russian President Vladimir Putin, he's not named specifically in these documents, but they do reveal a telltale trail, investigators say, of offshore deals and loans, secret all, set up by his closest inner circle and worth $2 billion. There are other world leaders involved, the King of Saudi Arabia, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, even the president of Ukraine. This scandal is just exploding, as I say right now, and Russia has already responded. Putin's spokesman saying this is a Putin phobia and an attack on the country, but this is just the beginning of a worldwide financial scandal.
The Panama Papers are giving us a glimpse into how the mega rich and the politically powerful hide billions of dollars. An anonymous source provided nearly 40 years' worth of documents from a law firm in Panama named Mossack Fonseca, which helps establish offshore bank accounts for the world's wealthiest people. The 2.6 terabytes of data handed over to journalists reportedly contain approximately 11.5 million documents, including nearly 5 million internal emails, providing a window into some 214,000 companies.
This really told us something about how the offshore financial system works, and especially about who are the kinds of people who are using it.
The leak could have a chilling effect on Miami's condo market, where multi-million-dollar cash deals from foreign investors are commonplace. Federal authorities are already scrutinizing large cash deals in South Florida to find out where the money comes from. The concern is much of it may be illicit.
The same system that politicians and the mega wealthy and billionaires are using to move money and do transactions is also being used by criminals, drug kingpins.
Among the 12 current or former heads of state named in the investigations, the presidents of Ukraine and Argentina and the king of Saudi Arabia. And while he's not named directly, the documents show allies of Russian President Vladimir Putin secretly shuffled as much as $2 billion through banks and shadow companies. Mossack Fonseca called the leak a crime and stressed to a French news agency that we have no responsibility in how these companies were used. The sports world is also under scrutiny. At least one FIFA official has already been connected to allegations of tax evasion found in the Panama Papers. Well, business and political leaders around the world are now in defense mode because of this. In Russia, Kremlin officials have said the leak of confidential documents is part of a plot to destabilize the Russian government.
I'm just protesting like the rest of the nation, it appears.
I'm just protesting the corruption of the government, and that the Prime Minister has been hiding his money in Tortola and lying about it.
Of course, we knew there was something happening, but the extent of the situation was a total surprise. So that's why I'm here.
Dozens of workers are sickened on the job. The Lennar headquarters on Northwest 107th Avenue had to be evacuated today as investigators work to figure out what caused them to get sick. CBS 4's Gary Nelson is live on the scene of this story for us. Gary?
No, normally gases that get in. Well, I can tell you that in just the last less than 3 minutes now, we have learned the source of this carbon monoxide leak. You might find it difficult to believe, but apparently this noxious gas, this potentially fatal gas, was emanating up from drains in first-floor restrooms of this Lennar Corporation building. Employees at the sprawling Lennar housing headquarters in Sweetwater sickened by an odorless, tasteless, but potentially deadly gas, carbon monoxide. First responders descended on the building after employees coming to work Monday started coming down sick. Firefighters evacuated the place where they found high levels of carbon monoxide, a byproduct of gasoline or propane or anything that burns. At least 17 employees were so ill, had such high levels of the noxious gas in them, they were loaded onto stretchers and into ambulances to be taken to hospitals.
So we're getting them to medical facilities, including Palmetto, Kendall, and Baptist Hospital so far, so they can get evaluated.
Some 30 Lennar employees were treated at the scene. Another 80 had already gone home not feeling well. Carbon monoxide, if it doesn't kill you, and it can most often in your sleep, can really make you sick.
Different symptoms like dizziness, nausea, weakness, stuff like that, headaches.
Throughout the day, firefighters in hazmat gear were in and out of the 120,000 square foot Lennar building taking carbon monoxide readings.
Those levels are still high, but we've managed to get them down through ventilation of introducing fresh air from the outside into the building.
And the source of the gas that made scores sick and kept hundreds off the job? Investigators were focusing on a possible slow, hidden electrical burn in or around a battery-filled room that provides backup power to company computers. But that theory was shot down quite affirmatively less than 5 minutes ago. The Miami-Dade Fire Department announcing that this carbon monoxide was emanating up from drains, bathroom drains in the first floor of this building. Now, how did that carbon monoxide get into the sewer and then back up through those drains? That's a question that is unanswered. There are supposed to be protective valves that keep that sort of thing from happening, entering your home or your place of business. So Lennar is going to be out of business probably well into tomorrow until they can get someone in here and get this issue fixed. How the carbon monoxide got in the sewer, well, who knows?
I'm joined now by Hope Harrison. She is an Associate Dean for Research and Associate Professor of History and International Affairs at George Washington University. I was reading one account where it said analysts are really kind of at a loss as to why now. Is there a catalyst for this? I know there's been interruptions in the ceasefire over the years, but why now?
I don't know that there's one particular reason, but I do know that for years Azerbaijan has been planning this. They've made it clear. They lost the war back in 1994. They have about 700,000 displaced persons from that war. Both sides lost tens of thousands of people, and Azerbaijan lost a major 20% of its territory. And they've made it clear they want it back. And now it seems that they're trying to do that, and they've got Turkish support.
Well, I was just going to say the Turkish president saying he is backing Azerbaijan to the end. This obviously doesn't sit well with Moscow. They've got a tense relationship because of the jet shot down over Syria back in November. Talk to me about the wider dimensions of this.
Yeah, this is very worrisome because both Armenia and Azerbaijan have major motivations here. Azerbaijan, revenge. Armenia wants to defend the territory. It feels it rightfully belongs to it because of the ethnic Armenians there. And they both are backed by major powers. Armenia, there's a Russian military base in Armenia. They've been staffing it with more troops and more equipment. Turkey is backing Azerbaijan. This is a very worrisome development, and sadly, I do not expect it to de-escalate anytime soon.
Is there anyone who can intervene to play the mediator in this, do you think?
There is a mediation group, the Minsk group of the U.S., France, and Russia. They are meeting tomorrow in Vienna to try. But I think that given that both Armenia and Azerbaijan are so motivated and angry and are escalating the situation, that unless the mediators have some big carrots they can use with them, I'm worried that they're not going to be able to persuade them to pull back from the course they're on.
What could be the potential carrots, do you think? Is there anything out there?
Well, given that Armenia won the war and took over a lot of land, you know, part of that would involve giving some territory back to Azerbaijan. It would also involve perhaps a change in the status of Nagorno-Karabakh, which is legally part of Azerbaijan. But Armenia and the people in Nagorno-Karabakh want to be independent. There's got to be the right to return of some of the displaced persons. They would want some security for Armenians moving back and forth between Armenia proper and Nagorno-Karabakh. If they gave up some of the land they took between Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh. So there are a whole bunch of issues that they could talk about, but they've been talking about those issues for over 20 years. and not coming to an agreement, and now resorting to military action.
Quickly, if you can, for someone who watches this rather closely, what are you going to be watching for in the days ahead to see if it goes one way or the other?
Well, I'm going to be watching for what happens on the ground because sadly, the more people who are killed and the more property that is destroyed, the angrier both sides become. And this is a very militarized region. I mean, this line of control, this line of contact, the border, which I passed through when I was working for the White House, they've got trenches. They are really set in there. And so they've got everything they need, sadly, to really wage war here.
Yeah, and they say that they're using heavy machinery and rockets this time around, which is an escalation, obviously.
Yes.
Hope, thanks so much for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Anti-Muslim hate group planned to protest outside of an African-American mosque in Dallas, Texas on Saturday while carrying rifles and wearing army gear. The protesters claim that the mosque is promoting violence against Americans openly and publicly. However, things didn't go as planned when the new Black Panther Party showed up unannounced to protect the worshipers from the hate group. RT's Ashley Banks has more on this story.
Things did not go as planned last Saturday as members of the anti-Muslim group known as BEAR, Bureau of American Islamic Relations, prepared to protest outside of a mosque in Dallas, Texas. According to Dallas local station KDFW, members of the group arrived to the protest sporting camouflage while carrying guns and the American flag. Days before the protest, the group sent out an invite on Facebook to its followers, saying we cannot stand by while all these different anti-American, Arabian radical Islamists team up with the Nation of Islam, Black Panthers, and white anti-American anarchist groups, joining together in the goal of destroying our country and killing innocent people to gain dominance through fear. A few hundred South Dallas residents, mostly black, flooded Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to oppose the demonstration. The anti-Muslim hate group quickly dispersed after finding itself outnumbered by the new Black Panther Party and the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. Both groups came bearing arms to defend the mosque. Crystal Mohammed, the national chair of the new Black Panther Party, accused BEAR of trying to intimidate and bully the mosque. That day, she and others lined Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard armed and dressed in black, saying that this must be done because no one else will protect our people. Saturday's protest was not the first for BEAR. Back in November, armed protesters stalked Muslims in Irving, and in December, they again stalked Muslims at the Islamic Association of North Texas. The group rallies against what it calls radical Islamism. On Saturday, police were armed and ready just in case the protests turned violent. However, local police said the event ended without incident. In Washington, Ashley Banks, RT.